Hello, and welcome to the Mercenary Star Podcast. We are a BattleTech podcast highlighting the storied mercenary units in the BattleTech universe. My name is Seth, also known as White Fox SG, and I am your host. Today, on episode 14, we have a special mercenary recruitment episode. We'll be covering the following question: how to play BattleTech for free. That's right, you heard me, for free. Special asterisk there. I'm joined today by a very special guest, my friend and co-host for the day, CJ, who is host of the NextGen Nerd podcast and also one of my players on my D&D campaign, Hearth and Hammer. Thank you so much for joining me, CJ. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I appreciate you having me on. I am always up for a little more Seth in my week. Always up for a little more.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, it was interesting to find out in conversations that we've had that you are not totally unfamiliar with the BattleTech universe. So let's just kind of dive into a couple questions for you.
Okay.
What is your experience, your previous experience with BattleTech / MechWarrior?
Okay. So I didn't know that they were the same thing. I thought it was like Hydrox and Oreo, and I won't say which one was which one was Hydrox, which was Oreo. But I played the wheels off of MechWarrior 3. And
Awesome.
Black Knight was, I think, the expansion for MechWarrior 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I played a little bit of Vengeance. Growing up, a friend of mine, his brother was like in high school when we were in middle school, and like he had all these computers, and so he had everything. All the games we played were network LAN PC games.
Awesome.
And so we would play MechWarrior 3 networked, and there'd be like 10 of us playing on these maps.
That's fantastic.
And so I loved making mechs for very specific purposes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would play different roles on the squad. And one of my favorite ones, I think it was the Osiris mech. It was the really small one.
Yeah.
I would soup up the armor and the speed, and I had one like laser, but really I had a flare, and I had the beacon that targeted all the missiles. And so like I would run in and I would hit them with a beacon and then launch a flare, and they would all just launch their stuff at the same time, and it would blow up that one mech. And so I was just running around the whole time.
Yeah, the narc pod is what it was called. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's fantastic. And in fact, knowing this too, I need to get you to download MechWarrior Online.
Okay.
We talked about this the other day. This is a game I'm confident even an aging computer can handle, because it was like
you say Asian or aging? I couldn't tell which one.
Aging. I'm sure both, but but an aging computer could absolutely handle it. It's like a 2015, 2016 game, something like that. Okay. And your Osiris is in it.
Nice.
So,
nice.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun. It's also free to play. So
okay. Yeah,
free to play, and we have a
those.
group that plays.
Oh yeah.
A lot of times throughout the week, but also on Friday nights we'll have Friday night customs, and sometimes we'll have upwards of 10, 15 people in there.
Nice. Nice.
So yes, it's very cool. But continue on.
Yeah. So I played that plenty. Yeah, played those games. As far as the idea of being in a giant robot, Super Sentai series and things like that, that sounds amazing. But I remember reading a book. It wasn't a BattleTech or a MechWarrior book, but there was a guy that was able to inhabit this giant robot suit. And so as I was thinking about that book, I thought I need to check with Seth and see, is there a book that I can jump into? And you said, yes, there is. It's
several.
Several. And I said, just give me one. And it was Decision at Thunder Ridge. Was that the
Thunder Rift?
Thunder Rift.
Yes.
And so I was like, hey, I'm off on spring break. Let me listen to this book. And so finished it yesterday.
Yes. Awesome. Fantastic. And we will discuss that. But we're going to jump into our topic first, and then we'll have a little bit of a book review for someone just getting into the lore.
Fantastic. Sounds good.
Because, again, I want to hear your thoughts on it, because this was the very first BattleTech book written.
Okay.
In 1985. And so it's dated for sure. But as someone who didn't really know the lore or of the universe, yeah, I want to see where it is, because obviously, we've talked that's the beginning of a trilogy, but then and there's many more books. But as a starting place, I think that's a good place, especially for you having a little bit of experience, and then we'll talk about other recommendations. But before we do that, we're gonna dive into how to play BattleTech, the tabletop game, for free.
Okay.
And what it really comes down to is that BattleTech has a lot of print and play options out there that people probably don't know about. And so we're going to walk through those here for just a minute. If you are familiar with the BattleTech tabletop game, which I know you are not necessarily,
Nope.
have you ever seen it? You've never seen it, have you?
Not that to my recollection. Like I said, that same house that I grew up going to a lot, he had several older brothers, and they played a lot of tabletop games. So they may have played a BattleTech tabletop game. I may have seen it, but not like I've never played. But I mean, I've seen miniature games, and I've seen miniatures that look like Mech Warriors. So I assume that maybe they were from this game.
Very possibly. Very possibly. Well, I'm just going to pull this into frame here. This is the BattleTech Beginner Box. Okay. And this little guy is pretty great. It's $25. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it online. You can get it at local game shops. You can even get it at Barnes & Noble, pretty sure. But that's the beginner box, and it's got 2 plastic mechs and the quick start rules, which are a truncated set of rules. One of the good things about BattleTech, CJ, is that in 40 years, this is the 40th anniversary year, 2024, it hasn't really changed much. The rules have not changed. It's not like if you've heard of Warhammer 40K or players talk about that, how the rules change like every couple of years. And then it's like, oh, I can't even play with these miniatures anymore. Even sometimes they even like do that. It's not the case. Anything produced officially for BattleTech, no matter what year it came out, can be used in even official tournaments. Technically speaking, pretty sure even the paper printouts can be used in official tournaments because they are officially from that. Now, obviously, TOs, tournament organizers out there may be like, no paper, and that's fine, for them to do that. But like, yeah. But even if you're just like getting together at someone's house or at a game shop, paper tokens, old mechs that you found in a thrift store or online, it doesn't matter. You can even use like pennies and glass beads for certain things. I've seen that used for like vehicles and infantry and stuff like that. So, but that is one thing. Second, just to show you, this is also a Barnes & Noble exclusive, but because you just read the Grey Death, the first book of the Grey Death trilogy, this is a special Grey Death
Oh, nice.
box. Sorry, I'm getting kind of a reflection there, but
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's got 4
Nice.
mechs in it. Two of them are from the old books, and then 2 of them are from some new books because we've got a timeline that spans about 100 years in the BattleTech universe that we play in. So, but those are 2 examples of like products that Catalyst Game Labs and BattleTech has, for purchase. But in order to play for free, I'm going to direct you and all of our viewers out there to, to BattleTech's website, bg.battletech.com, for those that are following along. And I'm going to just show you, actually. So we're going to go over to our presentation here. If you're watching on the VOD on YouTube or on Spotify, be sure to check out the VOD, and I'll show off this. I'll also have links in the show notes where to find the downloads page and a lot of these other documents. So, but yeah, so this is BattleTech's main webpage. They have a downloads section. And on the download section, there are a plethora of documents
That's
that
right.
you can download. And when I say that, I mean there's a ton, a literal ton. If you were to print it off in paper, no, maybe not quite a ton, but there are all the things that you would need, all the things that you would need. And so we're going to start with this first one. It's the BattleTech Quick Start rules. This is basically the rules and the paper documents that come in the beginner box, as we'll see here. This is actually the old cover for the BattleTech Beginner Box. And so the new cover I have here is is what's on this box. Also, I think this is probably, it's not quite the same rules that are in the Essentials box, which is a $25 box that Target sells exclusively. So, but yeah, so here we go. This runs you through all of the rules. And this is a free PDF. None of these cost. You don't even have to log into the account. But it talks, starts you off, how to play, quick start rules, a sequence of play, movement, talks about movement dice, and it goes through the entire thing. I'm not going to go over all the rules now. But this is...
I'm happy to read. I'm happy to read on my own. Yeah.
Absolutely. But what I really want to point out is in this document, at the end, are essentially everything you need to print and play the game without having to buy this box. Now, obviously, if you do buy the box and you're looking at the screen right now, it comes with 2 plastic mechs, all the record sheets, the quick start, some punch outs for different things, and the punch outs even are really nice cardboard stand-ups as well. You can use those too. But in this, you've got the truncated record sheets that they offer in the quick start, in the box sets a lot of times, and then the tables, like the play tables. But then, like I said, here's the map that you would print off. It has kind of a smaller version of the map, so it's like a full 8.5 by 11 sheet there, and then part of the 8.5 by 11 sheet on the next page, and then it has 2 paper standees that are double-sided. Print them off, fold them over, and that's all you need. That's all you need.
Nice.
However, they offer others that can contribute to this handily. So, for example, this is the Quick Start box, and this is the classic BattleTech rules. So now's when I'm going to confuse you, CJ. There is 2 different BattleTech games. There is BattleTech, or Classic BattleTech is what some will call it, and then there's Alpha Strike. Classic BattleTech is played on this hex grid map, and not always using 3D terrain, although you can use 3D terrain. Alpha Strike does not have a hex grid, and it uses 3D terrain, and then you use a ruler to measure out distances for movement, for range, for stuff like that. It also does not use those truncated record sheets or the full record sheets that I'll show you in a minute. It doesn't use those. It uses these smaller cards, and these smaller cards have like so many points of armor, so many points of structure, and they have there's a truncated rule set for how to play Alpha Strike. And usually the point of playing Alpha Strike is that you can put more mechs on the table, and there's not as many things to manage per mech, so the games last a shorter amount of time. So
it's like Monopoly and Monopoly Go. Got it.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the Alpha Strike Quick Start rules. And this is an updated version of it as well. They previously just this only came out when the new Alpha Strike box set came out, which I have over here, but I'm not going to get it off the shelf. It comes with 13 mechs by itself, and it's about $75. But instead, you could also download this. And it comes with a bit of fiction. It comes with... Let me skip back. It comes with an introduction to Alpha Strike, talks about the basics and the components. This is kind of the card for each unit as opposed to that big sheet. It's about like a 3x5 card, roughly.
Okay.
Talks about playing the game. Here's all the rules for that. It talks about, these are some good diagrams for using terrain and range as opposed to the hex grid. But then again, what I want to show you is at the end, it has all the things you need to print and play. This quick reference tables are important in both Classic and Alpha Strike. But then we've got building printouts. So this is to print out and construct into a building. You got one building there, building 2, a taller building, and then there's these wooded terrains that are just basically flat pieces that you put out there. Treat them as woods. Rough terrain, water terrain, and then these are range. These are range rulers. So this is you don't even have to have a tape measure or ruler. This printout has it on there. So, but then again, there are cutouts. Now, the funny thing is this document's been updated, but they haven't updated these cutouts. And I wish they would, because if you look at these models, these are actual photos of models this time, as opposed to the line, like the nicely colored line art of the other ones. And these are all older style models. They've updated a lot of these sculpts since then. But these are still perfectly playable. Everyone's going to know what they are. They're also labeled, so that helps. And so, yeah, there's a lot more mechs. And then these are essentially the playing cards. Each card for a unit. There's the point value cost in the upper right. And a lot of times people like, so if you were to buy the box set, the cards that are in there are actually dry erase. So, instead you could put these in like a card sleeve or a binder or something and write on them, or just print them and use pencil and paper and then throw them away.
Yep.
But yeah,
sneak them in at the library to get them laminated when no one's paying attention.
Or do that. Or do that for sure. So those are the
Phil
two.
Phil Gainey, it's coming your way, buddy. Make sure you laminate them for me. That'd be great.
So these are like the two kind of basic download files, and again, obviously there's a cost to print paper. It could be a few cents per page, or whatever. Maybe more if you do color as opposed to black and white. But you're not having to buy into any products to learn to play the game on either one. On top of these two, there are actually print-offs on this downloads page for Battle Force, which is not a lot of people play Battle Force, I'll just tell you. It's been around for a long time, but it's basically the massive army rules as opposed to... And so it has only ever been like little paper tokens or whatever. There is a Time of War Quick Start, which is one of the two tabletop RPGs. There was an free RPG Day booklet that was actually put out in 2012. There's Chaos Campaign, which is how to run a tabletop kind of RPG campaign. And there's how to track, your damage and how to pay for, to get repairs and stuff like that. So, but then also too, there's these record sheets. Record sheets are the, instead of those little half pages, they're like a full page. And it's basically like a character sheet for D&D or something like that. It's a full page, but it's for the mech instead of the pilot. And so they have them for everything. There's also for everyone out there who don't know, there are record sheet downloads for all of the force packs, all of the mercenary force packs, I should say. And then also for a Game of Armored Combat, which is kind of the primary box set that we all talk about. Not that one. Where is it at? There we go. Game of Armored Combat record sheets. And so, this is essentially a full sheet record sheet. And so it's a little more complicated because there's external armor, there's an internal structure that you can damage. You can destroy an arm, or you can blow up a laser, or you can hit an ammo bin and cause an explosion. You can hit the pilot. And so that's where BattleTech is. I like Classic a little more, and it's a lot of fun because it's very granular, and it's got kind of that story element to it. Like, oh, I blew off his arm, and then I picked it up and used it as a club, because you can do that in BattleTech. So Alpha Strike doesn't quite have that as much, but you can also play and get in a lot more games in less time, quite often. So, but again, I just kind of want to show you at the end of this, these are those nice high quality sculpts that they now have for you to download.
Which with access to all these, I mean, you can mix and match, right? Like you can say,
Absolutely.
I'm going to use these models, and we're going to use this one to print the terrain out, and okay.
Absolutely, and you don't even have to print terrain out. I mean, I'm sure you have seen, for TTRPGs there are hex-based maps out there,
right.
or blank ones, like the ones like with the Wet Erase that are square on one side. Chessex has them, like they're square on one side, hexes on the other. You could just use that and make up your own terrain and play on that kind of thing. So, really, you could get even more creative with these things. But yeah, essentially, this is kind of where it's at. Also, too, for everyone else out there, there is an Alpha Strike record sheet book that has all the classic record sheets for the Alpha Strike mechs as well, because they kind of come prepared for it. There's also this reference tables, which is it's a thick, heavy cardstock that comes in the boxes, but it's something you reference a lot in the games. So, last thing I'm going to talk about as far as print-offs. Catalyst, I don't know where you put it, but when you released in 2022 the salvage boxes with all the new plastic miniatures, you had a download page with the quick start rules. And it had, not only did it have the quick start rules and all of the print and play, little guys for the beginner box, but it also had the half record sheets for all of the mechs that came out with the Clan Invasion Kickstarter. It wasn't for every configuration or every variant, for those of you who know what I'm talking about, but it had at least one for every unit. And I don't know where Catalyst put it because the download link for it is not there anymore. However, I do have it. If anyone wants it, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to send it out. Maybe they got rid of it because they're going to put out a new one. That would be amazing. But yeah, this is kind of an updated one. Again, has all the rules in here. It has the stuff for Game of Armored Combat, and then the print and play stuff yet again. However, here at the bottom, it goes into all of the mechs for the previous Kickstarter. So, all the way down, it's 111 pages, So, just had to kind of show that off, because, like I said, I don't know what you did with it. Give us an updated link. Let me know. I know a few of you CGL people watch. I would love to be able to provide this for people who could do that. So, and just for you, CJ, part of me wants to take these half record sheets and maybe do more with them. But I think, maybe they didn't do this because they wanted to get away from the half record sheets. I don't know. I think that they're perfectly fine. So, all right.
Well, I'm currently downloading every file, so that's what I'm doing while we're talking.
You absolutely should. Yes. You absolutely should. And if you out there have any more resources that you want to share for how someone can play BattleTech for free, whether it's some print and play buildings or terrain, I know there's a lot of like 3D printing that you can do too, especially if you have a 3D printer. That's going to be a very minimal cost. I have a resin printer, and I have printed like D&D minis and, done some test prints on some other stuff. And a mini the size of a BattleTech figure is usually cents on the dollar. However, while that's totally acceptable to play with, especially at home, even a lot of times at local game stores, I highly recommend you support the official lines of products. That way we can continue to get more, because
Well,
we
I'm
all
definitely
want
looking
more
at this.
BattleTech. So
I'm definitely looking at this going, okay, so here I got the rules. I can print out some of these things, but I'm definitely gonna want to have my hand on some miniatures, right? Like there's no, I mean,
absolutely,
like they look sweet printed out, but they're gonna look even cooler, and I'm more likely to get my kids to play if there is an actual mech that
oh
they are
yeah,
walking around. So,
absolutely,
um,
and the
yes,
painting of them is something that as an adult I enjoy doing. It's cathartic, but even for the kids, like there are methods to teach, like especially now with things like Army Painter has special paints called speed paints, and you can literally take a miniature that's got maybe like a primed coat on it, slather on this, and what it'll do is it'll actually shade and highlight the mech all in one covering. Basically, it's this kind of like thin coat of paint that on the flat surfaces it makes it brighter, and on the in the crevices and the recesses it makes it darker. And so it gives highlighting and shading on the miniatures. And then all you really got to do is maybe put some metallic on the weapons pods or weapon barrels. Paint the cockpit. Do some detailing if you want, and that's 9 times out of 10 from 2 or 3 feet away on the table, it's going to look amazing. So
I'm adding things to my Christmas list. That's all. That's all.
absolutely,
Just adding
absolutely.
things in.
Perfect. That's what we want, right?
That's right.
So that is a quick look at how to play BattleTech for free. Like I said, anyone out there who, if you have any more resources, let us know in the comments. Reach out, shoot me an email, mercenarystarpodcast@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to share those too. But like I said, these are all the official things. I know some people out there have created some other like cut files with paper miniatures and stuff like that, but these are all the official ones that I definitely take a look. So but yeah, so CJ, obviously this is easy to kind of get hyped into, right? This is an easy way to test it out. You could absolutely test this with your kids before you buy anything, and you've got lots of colored paper models that are options, but the game itself is not the only draw. There are 40 years of novels and stories. And so just this week, I recommended you start with the very first novel, which is the beginning of the Grey Death trilogy, Decision at Thunder Rift. Other people might tell you to start on other books, but I have a special place in my heart for the Grey Death Legion. I have a son named Grayson. It may or may not have been a coincidence. Don't tell my wife. So she
Listen,
doesn't know that I had this fortunate connection here that I was like, oh yeah, I definitely like that name.
yeah. Listen, my kids have nerdy names too. One of my sons, he has 2 middle names. One of them is Grayson for a different Grayson, Dick Grayson, because he was going to be the Robin to my Batman. So
amazing.
Yeah. And here's like, I like that name. I go, I do too. I do too. Let's go for that. Yeah, so read the book, really enjoyed it. Before we get in there, so is the distinction between MechWarrior and BattleTech video game versus tabletop game, is that the distinction, or is there something else I'm missing?
Yes, except for the TTRPG is also called MechWarrior.
That's
And
not
the reason for
confusing at
that, so here's really the difference.
Yes.
BattleTech is the tabletop game, okay, and the universe as a whole. So like literally the entire universe is BattleTech. MechWarrior is basically the BattleTech video games, yes. It is also the TTRPG, but it's because both of those things focus on the person and kind of the first person perspective. So the MechWarrior video games obviously are the first person perspective of the pilot sitting in the cockpit piloting the mech. And similarly with the TTRPG, you're like first person. I'm the
Yeah.
character. I pilot the mech, or if you're not a mech warrior in the TTRPG, then you could be pretty much anything in there. But yes, so that's why those are called mech warrior,
Okay.
and then BattleTech is the overarching
Squad-based combat, yeah.
and then as well as the kind of squad, tabletop, which is not just this. So yeah.
I got you. Okay. So read Decision at Thunder Rift, and definitely enjoyed it. It was interesting. A couple of the pieces that there's some that kind of stood out to me that I was like, oh, I guess that would happen. So when I'm listening to this, I'm picturing the game I played growing up, which was just these desolate landscapes. There was one that had buildings, but not a whole lot. And so I picture this like destroyed civilization. So that's like immediately where my head is, where I'm picturing this. And then there was a scene in the book where they had to turn the entertainment channels off to go to the news channel, and I was like, "What? Hang on, that wasn't what I was picturing,"
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but overall, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the color added to the games. I don't remember playing any of the actual missions. We just played multiplayer, and so you lose all the lore of what's actually happening. But I can definitely see the merit and the enjoyment in the technical nature of the combat that was going on. Listening to it at 2x while also driving, I may have missed some of the details in some of that. I may have gotten bogged down a little bit in the technical, that if I was reading it at a normal pace, completely focused, would have been different. But no, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the story of revenge is always one that we can identify with. People do us wrong, and we go, how can we get them back? I don't know how far we want to go. Spoilers. I mean, this book came out.
So it came out 40 years ago almost. Spoil away, my friend.
Okay, so I did not like that he continued to go after the mech while Kalmar was on fire. Like I was upset. I was like, why are you still going after him? Like do what you're supposed to do in this dang book. Like they're obviously trying to ship these two anyway. So like I was kind of, I don't know. I did like how they said after that. So in the book,
are you talking about when he first encounters her, or are you talking about towards the end?
Towards the end, when he had the chance to either go and save her while her mech was burning,
right,
or to get revenge on the one who killed his father, who kind of baited him into all these things. He has this choice between doing this, and he picks up, I think it was the arm of another mech, and he's like, "This would make a good beating club." Like he's thinking it like this. I could definitely do this, and she's like screaming in the background, like, "Save me, save me, save me!" And he decides he's going to do what's important to him in that moment, which I guess is probably a more human response, that I'm going to do.
And he's a pretty young, 20-something guy.
But I was
focused on what's in front of him. But yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of bummed by that. I'm going, well, that'll make for some good character development down the road, I guess. So
it will for sure. And that is a point of contention between the two, moving on with the story for sure. So
I definitely want a visual companion's guide to this as they're talking about the different mechs. I definitely need to set that up while I'm listening, and because they describe it. And funny enough, we played a new board game, me and my kids, called Monstrosity, where one person describes a monster and you all have to draw it. And it was funny that you would use one set of words and you would have two different pictures as far as what was going on. And so when they're talking about this mech having a crab-like body, I'm not sure I'm visualizing it the same way that they're meaning it. So a visual companion's guide would be nice to go, oh, that's the mech that they're talking about.
So one of the things I'll tell you too, obviously I know you listen to the audiobook. If you read the physical book or you read the digital book on
what am I, a peasant?
Kindle or whatever, I know.
I live in the Dark Ages.
But one of the great things about the BattleTech books in both physical and digital media is that at the back of the book it has pictures of all the mechs.
Oh, that would be helpful. Helpful.
So just so that you know, it is out there, and that is your suggestion was taken to heart 40 years ago.
So I'm looking up the Marauder. That's what I was thinking of, where it said it had like a crab-like body, and I'm looking at the picture here, and I'm going, this does not look like a crab-like body. Like, I don't know where they get that idea from.
Yeah.
You know, and
so that's the problem too. So there's a
maybe they were from Florida. Maybe Florida crabs are different than whatever crabs they were looking at.
Maybe so. I'm gonna send you the link to sarna.net.
Okay.
It is I say official. It's the unofficial BattleTech wiki, essentially.
Okay. You
very
can't have
well,
an official wiki, so yes, I understand.
Right. Very well maintained. But if you can search for any of the mechs on there, and it'll pull up a good picture of it. So like the Shadowhawk, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can pick on a big image of it there. You can look at I think with the Marauder when it says crab-like,
you can only go side to side.
No, it goes forward and backwards, but it's that reversed, kind of bird leg jointed legs, and then it's got these kind of like, I don't know. Trust me, there are mechs that are called the crab later, and they look more like a crab than Despos for sure.
Okay.
So like, it's not in this book, but look up the king crab, and you'll be like, yeah, that looks like a crab.
That sounds like it. That sounds like it. So I would say that the book definitely engaged me, at least for the remainder of the trilogy. Because this is a trilogy.
Yeah.
And so I'm definitely going to continue with the trilogy. And we'll go from there.
Perfect. That's all we can ask, right? I think that there, obviously you and I being friends and being in communication on a weekly basis, I wouldn't say like, oh yeah, just start reading from there and like try to read through all of the 100 books that are out there. But I would say that there are definitely some, to pick and choose that I'll recommend to you later.
That works.
And read.
You recommended me. I've got some for you as well that you're like, I don't want to read those.
Oh, perfect.
Like, I'm going to recommend one.
Perfect. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. CJ and I have this growing book club friendship here that we're both avid readers of the sci-fi and fantasy persuasion. So.
Yes.
For sure. Well, hey, I'm glad you liked it.
Yes.
One of the things that this book and this trilogy does well is it gives you kind of a micro perspective of what's going on in the universe, right? So like this is one small mercenary unit on a small backwater planet with, big problems.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Also reading this, I was thinking, what would I call my Mercenary Lance? And so I have not.
Absolutely.
I've not done that yet, but I know that you have. So, you have to have, right? As a creator, surely. Okay.
Of course.
Okay.
I've had multiple over the years, even. Let me just put it that.
Okay. Well, I want to hear the worst idea and the best idea. The worst idea of your lance and the best idea.
The worst idea? I don't know.
You got one. You got
one.
So
I'm going back to my childhood here.
Yes. Yes.
I think so again, for those that have heard the show before or whatever, you may know that my, gamer tag / handle White Fox has been around with me since I got into BattleTech. It originated with BattleTech. And so that as you kind of continue in your reading, there were two things that inspired White Fox. One, the leader of House Davian, which is one of the great interstellar nations in the Innersphere. At the time of this book and at the beginning of the BattleTech timeline that we knew of, was Hans Davian. And he was nicknamed the Fox because he was just like crafty and intelligent, and he was like a military genius. And so I loved that. But then later, there's a group called Clan Ghost Bear. I'm not going to spoil who they are or anything about them, but they had a very snowy theme. We'll just put it that way.
All right.
Okay. And so I really liked the whole there's an Arctic fox. So I'll just, but Arctic, that's like too many syllables. Like it just need to be simple. So it was White Fox is what I came up with. So
okay. Nice.
So my first that I remember being like, this is my mercenary unit, was like the White Fox Legion.
Okay. Yeah.
Not great considering I did not have a Legion. I was like, oh yeah, it's like, so there's a Lance, right, which is 4 mechs. A company is the next highest up, and it's usually 3 lances, so 12 mechs. Or some mix of mechs, vehicles, and infantry as well, because they are important in the BattleTech universe too. But we're here for the mechs, let's be honest. So it's, four for a lance, 12 for a company or 3 lances, and then a battalion is 3 companies or 3 to 5 companies. That's a battalion, and then there's a regiment, which is usually like 3 battalions. And so that's kind of like order of how many mechs would be. And so, yes, of course, my mercenary company back then, I probably, in our childhood attempts at having a campaign or a role play, I'm pretty sure I had like 12 mechs or something, maybe, so it wasn't really a legion. So my most recent that I've thought of as like a fun name is the Fox Fusiliers.
Okay.
And so I would say they're probably like my unit now. I've put some things on paper. Nothing, I haven't really played with them. I haven't nailed down a paint scheme, because really that's why we customize things. That's why we do it, is because we want to have our own custom cool paint scheme.
Oh yeah.
We want to paint the mechs exactly how we want to paint them. And so yeah, that's the thing, that's what we do in BattleTech. You can absolutely follow a paint scheme for a national unit or for an established mercenary unit, but it's also just fun to do what you want.
Oh, I'm all about custom, man. All about custom. Yes.
So
let's do it.
So yeah, that's part of the fun part of BattleTech 2. Is that kind of like Star Wars or other sci-fi genre, sci-fi IPs out there? BattleTech's a big universe, and you could pick a random planet and create your own world and own story there, and it's fine. So
nice.
That's part of the joy of it. So, but yeah. Well, hey, CJ, thanks for joining today.
Yeah, man.
This has been a lot of fun. I'm sure you and I will have many more conversations, and happy to have you on the show again. In fact, maybe once you've read more,
okay,
we'll bring you back to talk about a mercenary unit. In fact, yeah, I've got some books I could recommend for other mercenary units.
Okay.
That I haven't covered yet, and so then maybe we can get you in on some of that. So, but hey, thanks for joining me. Thank you all for joining us on this video. You can find CJ on the NextGen Nerd podcast. Give us a shout out about that, CJ.
Yeah, so NextGen Nerd podcast is a blend of my interests in nerddom, and then I also talk about ministry some. So I was a youth pastor for a long time, and so I talk about those things. I love having people on and talk about things that they love that I don't understand. Had some really good shows on that. Or taking a nerd property and putting ourselves in the middle of it. So, like, for example, when we do a BattleTech episode, we'll be going over these questions again. Like, tell me about your loadout. Yeah. Like, if you are a mech warrior, like, tell me your loadout. So Absolutely. Those kind of things. You can find the show at nextgennerd.com. And then my handle at Instagram, YouTube, X, all those things is nextgen_nerd. And so that's where I'm at on all the different places. And yeah, right now we're in the middle of a series, it's just me right now doing brackets. So like my favorite books, March Madness style bracket, finding my favorite book, superheroes. And so tomorrow I'm actually recording my episode on my favorite movies, I think.
Ooh.
The movies or games? I can't remember. Maybe it's games and then movies. Maybe it's games. So we're just doing those things, and
Both will be
really
fun.
kind of... They are fun because I haven't randomized the seeds, and so I have no idea what the matchup is going to be until I look at it and I go,
awesome.
That's it. Dang it. Okay, well, I guess this game's going to have to die. So yeah, so that's what we're doing right now.
Well, that's fun. That's a lot of cool. That's a lot of fun. I did see your first one, which was, what was that one on your brackets?
Superheroes.
The superheroes.
Yeah. I did not see some of those matchups, and then they hit there, and you're like, oh, okay, all right, definitely would have wanted these to be much closer to the end. But honestly, that's how March Madness goes sometimes. You have these matchups and somebody gets knocked out, and you're like, well, dang, I really thought they would have gone further. But yes, so I will not spoil my favorite superhero. You have to go check it out. But I picked 32 superheroes the loosest definition of which was Harry Potter, and that was from my son. My son said Harry Potter. So,
That's okay. That's okay.
I go, who am I missing? He goes, you don't have Harry Potter. I go, I don't have Harry Potter. Let me put Harry Potter in there. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks again for joining it. I cannot fail to mention our show sponsor, Fortress Miniatures and Games. They are a fantastic place to go to get BattleTech product. If, unlike this video, you don't want to play for free, you want to get some of those miniatures. So definitely check them out. It is fortressminiaturesandgames.com. They have everything you need and are a fantastic place to get that to get all that stuff. So shout out to them. They're amazing. I had their logo up on the screen earlier, but definitely check them out. There will be a link in the show notes as well. And then I'll have links to the download pages and everything else in the show notes too. And I will look forward to getting into our next mercenary unit in episode 15 coming up. No spoilers. But again, thank you all for being here. I hope you enjoyed the show. Definitely give us a like and a subscribe on the YouTube channel, please. We're getting really close to I don't think we're that close to 1,000, but we're getting pretty close to 1,000 subs, and then really close to like the 3,000 watch hours, which is where we get to maybe have some more fun custom stuff. So anyway, check it out. Drop us a line in the comments. Hit us up on X/Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And then we will see you next time. So CJ, thanks. Good night.
Yeah, man.
God bless.